All right, let's dive into something we all experience every single day, like almost without even realizing it, advertisements.
Yeah, ads.
We're going to explore a whole bunch of articles and research on the topic, so
It's going to be a deep dive,
yeah, you could say that.
for sure.
You're clearly curious about ads, how they work, all that, and this whole deep dive is actually inspired by an episode of an IELTS podcast.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Have you ever thought about, like, studying abroad or working in another country?
Yeah, I've definitely considered it.
IELTS is a pretty important test for people who want to do that, so it's kind of interesting that even they're talking about ads.
Yeah, it is fascinating how a topic like advertising, pops up in the context of an English proficiency test. I think it speaks to how ads have become, well, such a big part of just the global landscape these days.
Totally. But let's get into why this deep dive is happening.
Okay.
It's not just about IELTS, right?
No.
You're interested in like the good, the bad, and the how do they know I wanted that of advertisement.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's right. And the source material we have is perfect for this, actually. It starts off with the simple question, do you like advertisements?
Oh, good question.
And the podcast host's answer is mixed feelings, which I bet a lot of people can relate to.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like I was just thinking about this the other day when I saw an ad for this amazing new coffee shop that's near my apartment.
Uh-huh.
I honestly wouldn't have even known about it otherwise, and now it's like my new favorite spot.
Nice.
But then literally like 5 minutes later, I was scrolling through social media and this ad for like some weird gadget popped up, and it was so creepy because it felt like it was reading my mind. It's like, hold on, how did they know I was just thinking about getting a new garlic press?
Right. It really does make you wonder how these companies are, collecting and using our data.
Seriously.
And that's precisely the duality of advertising. It can be so informative and even helpful, like in your coffee shop example, but it can also feel very intrusive and even manipulative.
Totally, yeah. So we've got this like tension between the usefulness of ads and the potential downsides, but I'm curious about the different types of ads that we encounter. Like the source material points out this huge shift from traditional to digital advertising, right?
Exactly. It specifically contrasts like billboards and posters, which are still around, of course, with, the dominant force of digital platforms like Instagram, YouTube.
Oh, yeah,
I think we can all feel that shift in how we're encountering ads these days.
for sure.
Like, remember when you actually had to wait through commercial breaks on TV?
Oh, yeah, remember?
Now it's all about these targeted ads just popping up, in your social media feed or while you're watching videos online.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I hardly ever even watch traditional TV anymore.
Me neither.
So my ad experience is it's almost entirely digital, which honestly can feel pretty overwhelming at times. But why this dramatic shift? I mean, is it just because everyone's online now?
Well, that's a big part of it, of course, but it's not just about eyeballs. The real power of digital advertising lies in targeting and personalization. Advertisers can leverage these massive amounts of data to create these incredibly specific audience segments
Oh, wow.
and deliver these tailored messages that are, much more likely to resonate with each individual.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole different ballgame from, putting up a billboard and hoping the right people drive by.
Yeah, for sure.
It's much more strategic.
Okay, so there's a lot more strategy and science behind it than I realized. It's like they're playing chess, like with our subconscious.
Wow, wait, yeah.
But all this targeting and personalization brings up kind of an interesting question. Are ads actually useful?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I find some helpful, but also see a ton that are just totally irrelevant to me.
Right. It's
Oh.
a valid question, and the source material actually tackles it head on. With an interesting example, the podcast host mentions discovering like an eco-friendly cleaning product through an ad,
Oh.
something he'd been, specifically looking for. So in that case, the ad clearly served a purpose. It connected him with a product that met his needs, aligned with his values.
See, that's what I find so fascinating about ads. It's like they can be this weird mix of annoying and incredibly useful. Like I can get so annoyed by like a poorly targeted ad, but then I see one for something I actually need. And it's like, okay, maybe you're not so bad after all. But how do we as consumers figure out what's a trustworthy ad, versus one that's trying to pull a fast one?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We live in a world where information is just abundant, but figuring out its validity can be a real challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is where media literacy comes in.
Yeah.
We need to equip ourselves with the tools to critically evaluate these advertising messages, to understand the techniques being used, and ultimately to make informed decisions based on our own needs and values.
Right.
Not just what the ads are telling us.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like being a smart consumer. It's like we need a decoder ring to navigate the world of advertising. But speaking of decoding, we haven't even touched on the psychology behind it all. Like what makes some ads just grab our attention while others just fade into the background noise.
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. The source material doesn't, dive deep into like the nitty-gritty of psychological tactics or anything, but we can get some insights from the examples they provide.
Okay.
Like take that Christmas ad that the podcast host described, the one with the young boy saving up to buy a gift for his parents.
Oh, yeah.
Why did that one resonate so deeply with viewers?
Good question.
I'd argue it's because it tapped into the power of emotion.
Absolutely. I remember seeing an ad a while back for like a travel website.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't about like fancy hotels or exotic destinations or anything.
Right.
It was just this montage of everyday people experiencing those aha travel moments, like the laughter, the awe, the connection.
Yeah.
And it totally got to me. I was like, I need to book a trip right now.
Yeah. Exactly. We're far more likely to remember and respond to an ad that makes us feel something, whether it's joy, nostalgia, maybe even a bit of sadness.
For sure.
Think about those ads for animal shelters with the sad music playing in the background. They just tug at your heartstrings and make you want to like adopt all the puppies.
Oh, yeah, those get me every time.
Yeah.
But it's not just about tugging at our heartstrings, right?
Right.
There's a whole science to how advertisers use psychology to persuade us.
Absolutely.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you start to like peel back the layers.
It really is, and one of the most common techniques is the use of scarcity,
Okay.
There's like limited time offer or only a few left in stock messages.
I see those everywhere.
They trigger our fear of missing out,
Right.
create a sense of urgency and make us more likely to make, an impulse purchase.
Oh, I totally fall for that. Like if I see something I've been wanting and it says like limited edition, I'm like adding it to my cart before I even have a chance to think twice.
It's a classic marketing tactic and it's incredibly effective.
For sure.
Another one is social proof.
Yeah.
Advertisers often show us like a bunch of people raving about a product, or they'll highlight how many positive reviews it has received because we tend to, follow the crowd.
Makes sense.
So if everyone else seems to love something, we're more likely to believe it must be good.
Think about how much we like rely on online reviews these days. Like before I buy anything online, I always check the star ratings and like read what other customers have to say.
Yeah.
It's like I need that social validation before I feel confident making a purchase.
Exactly. And this principle extends, beyond just product reviews to like influencer marketing.
Oh, wow.
We see someone we admire using a product, and we subconsciously associate those positive feelings with the brand. It's aspirational marketing at its finest.
It's like if insert favorite celebrity influencer uses this product, I need it too.
Precisely. We all have aspirations, whether it's, achieving a certain level of success or fitness or belonging, and advertisers tap into those desires by showing us, images and stories that evoke these aspirations. They're not just selling a product, they're selling a lifestyle, a feeling, an identity.
It's all about crafting a narrative that we want to be a part of.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about some of the like more subtle techniques. You mentioned something about color psychology earlier. How does that play into advertising?
Oh yeah, color it's incredibly powerful. Certain colors evoke, specific emotions and associations.
Mm-hmm.
Like red, for example, is often used to create a sense of urgency or excitement, while blue conveys like trust and stability. Green is associated with nature and health, and yellow can evoke feelings of happiness and optimism. Advertisers, they carefully select these color palettes to influence our perceptions and moods, even if we're not consciously aware of it.
Wow. So even the colors are like strategically chosen.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much thought goes into every detail of a well-crafted ad.
It really is a multisensory experience designed to, capture our attention and leave a lasting impression.
For sure.
And music plays a huge role in that too. Think about those catchy jingles or the uplifting soundtracks they use in commercials.
Oh, absolutely. Music can totally make or break an ad. There's this one jingle from my childhood that still pops into my head sometimes, even though I haven't seen the commercial in years.
That's the power of sound. It can evoke these powerful memories and emotions, creating a strong association with a particular brand or product.
It's incredible how much we're influenced by things we're not even consciously aware of. But knowing about these techniques makes me feel like a more savvy consumer.
Yeah.
I'm less likely to be swayed by sneaky tactics if I understand what's going on behind the scenes.
Exactly. Understanding the psychology of advertising is empowering. It allows us to be more critical and discerning, to recognize the subtle ways in which, our choices are being influenced, and ultimately to make decisions that align with our own values.
It's like we've unlocked a secret code.
Yeah.
But now that we've delved into the psychology of persuasion, I think it's time to tackle the ethical elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Like where do we draw the line between, clever marketing and outright manipulation?
Yeah, where does persuasion end and manipulation begin? That's the big question, right? Where does persuasion end and manipulation begin?
Yeah.
It's a question that's been debated for as long as advertising has existed, really.
Sure.
And while the source material we're, looking at doesn't explicitly address this ethical dimension,
Right.
it does, offer some food for thought.
Yeah.
Remember the host's comment about some ads being misleading?
Yeah, he talked about how some ads exaggerate claims or they leave out important details. It's like they're trying to trick you into thinking something is better than it actually is.
Right. And that's where the ethical tightrope walk begins. Advertisers have a responsibility to be truthful and transparent, but there's always that temptation to push the boundaries, right?
Yeah.
To make a product seem more appealing, more desirable, more essential than it might actually be. It's about finding that balance between, promoting a product and respecting the consumer's, intelligence and autonomy.
It feels like this constant tug of war, doesn't it?
Yeah.
On the one hand, we want to know about new products and services that might actually make our lives better.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, we don't want to be bombarded with, misleading information or feel like we're being manipulated into buying things we don't need.
Absolutely. It's a delicate dance.
It really is.
And I think the key, the key lies in fostering media literacy, both for advertisers and consumers.
Okay.
Advertisers need to be mindful of the power they have and the potential impact their messages can have.
For sure.
And consumers need to develop a healthy skepticism to question what they're seeing and hearing and ultimately to make informed decisions based on their own, values and needs.
Right. Not just what the ad is telling them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like we need to become advertising detectives.
Yeah, yes.
Learning to spot the clues, decipher the code, and separate fact from fiction.
Precisely. And that's where critical thinking comes in.
Yeah.
We need to be asking ourselves, what's the advertiser's agenda? What techniques are they using to try to persuade me? Is this information accurate and complete?
Yeah.
It's about engaging with advertising in a more, conscious and informed way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like leveling up our consumer awareness.
Exactly.
But I'm also thinking about those who might be more susceptible to manipulative advertising, like children or the elderly.
Right.
They might not have the same level of media literacy or critical thinking skills.
That's a crucial point, and it raises questions about the role of regulation in protecting vulnerable populations.
Oh, yeah.
There are already guidelines in place to prevent false or deceptive advertising, especially when it comes to products targeted at children.
Yeah.
But as technology advances and advertising becomes more sophisticated, we may need to reevaluate those regulations and make sure they're keeping pace with the evolving landscape.
It's a bit like a cat and mouse game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Advertisers are constantly finding new ways to capture our attention and influence our behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And regulators are trying to keep up to make sure that the playing field is fair and that consumers are protected.
It's a dynamic process for sure.
Definitely.
And as we look to the future of advertising,
Yeah.
one of the biggest questions on the horizon is the role of technology, particularly artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
We're already seeing algorithms that can, personalize ads with just incredible precision.
It's wild.
And as AI develops further, the potential for both good and bad applications in advertising is enormous.
It's a bit mind-boggling to think about, isn't it? Like, on the one hand, AI could help us find like products and services that generally make our lives better, things we might never have discovered otherwise.
Right.
But on the other hand, it could also be used to create these incredibly persuasive and manipulative ads that target our deepest desires and insecurities.
Right.
It feels like we're on the cusp of a whole new era of advertising with both exciting possibilities and potential pitfalls.
It's a fascinating and uncharted territory.
For sure.
And I think it's something we all need to be thinking about and discussing as consumers, as citizens, and as members of a society that's increasingly shaped by technology.
That's why these deep dives are so valuable.
Absolutely.
They give us a chance to step back, to examine a topic from multiple angles, to think about the ethical implications, and to ask those tough questions that we might not otherwise have the time or space to contemplate.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And speaking of questions, I'd love to leave our listener with a final one to ponder.
Good.
Knowing what you know now, about the evolution of advertising and its persuasive techniques and its ethical considerations.
Yeah.
How will you approach ads differently in the future? Will you be more discerning, more critical, more aware of the messages being conveyed, or perhaps you'll find a new appreciation for the creativity and the artistry involved? It's something to reflect on, as you navigate the ever evolving world of advertising.
It's been an incredible journey exploring this topic with you. We've covered so much ground from the history of advertising to the psychology behind it, and we've even ventured into the ethical gray areas. Hopefully you've walked away with a deeper understanding of this complex and pervasive force that shapes so much of our world.
Mm-hmm. It's been a pleasure diving deep with you and with our listener.
For sure.
And remember, this was a custom deep dive, tailored just for you.
Just for you.
So keep asking those insightful questions and keep exploring the world with curiosity and a critical eye.
Until next time, happy exploring.